talk. We try to plant seeds. We talk to people in the community and whatnot. I meet people online, on a regular basis, and people don't understand that I really do this. I really strive to connect, especially with my Black people in the community, just to connect community all over the country, to build community, get ideas from different Black folks, and how we can just, what I'm saying, heal our hurt. You know what I'm saying, and I learn a lot. You know what I'm saying? When I'm on social media posing questions, sharing my experiences and whatnot. And one of the people I really learned from was Janelle. And I'm gonna give her I don't know why she keep laughing. Now we was going back and forth. I think it might have lasted over 24 hours because I was, going back and forth. I was like, I didn't want to be misunderstood. That's the Pisces in me. But I really love to build and appreciate, in all seriousness, build community. I love it when people on my page that I'm, electronic and digital friends with, social media friends with, enlighten me and always push back, and we have, really good conversations. And like I've said many times on C Talk, Black people know how to get along, but sometimes we don't know how to not get along and agree to disagree. And that's something that we really need to, to work on. Not down for the blind allegiance, what I'm saying, on just, things that we should be always agreeing on. But I'm not also down with us not understanding each other and where we're coming from. So the topic today is that vaccine, you know what I'm saying? And COVID, which is, been heavy in our community. If you know me, I, I'm a big time nerd, aka blurred black nerd. I love to read. And al- allowing yourself to so much information also allows yourself to conspiracy theories. So if you know that I like to read, you also know that I don't really do the conspiracy theories. I don't do that. I think they're very entertaining. I think some are very true. However, when it comes to actually proving them, and you can't prove them, I just look at the outcomes. I just look at the outcomes. So I say that as a disclaimer, we will not be talking about any conspiracy theories when it comes to vaccines and things of that nature. We're not going to be talking about, can you get autism from vaccines, or, the Tuskegee experiment. I don't do that. I don't do that. I just look at outcomes and how I feel. So, oops, not an easy show for you to critique, because I know a lot of people just automatic. Oh, you just into that Tuskegee, or nope, that's not me. I actually go a little bit deeper than that. I actually read things other than that. But I wanted to, I share with very few people. I work at a high school. I'm an assistant principal. I'm the COVID supervisor there at the school. And I just noticed, um, since day one, when we started this, I have no problem complying. I have no problem helping other people be safe, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that there's a lot of things that keep changing with this pandemic as we move forward to the endemic. And how we move through this pandemic is being changed. What's the protocol? What are the safety precautions? How should we, be moving and protecting ourselves and whatnot? What we should eat, what we should drink, and now the vaccines. We have three options that I know about in the continental United States, and I know there's been some vaccines in other countries that I've heard that are pretty good. And I've also had experiences, in Haiti during the pandemic too, and got to interview some people down there and how they're handling it. But that's my little bit background. So I get briefed on the on COVID and the pandemic each week. We have meetings each week, and I actually take it very seriously. I really do. Even if I don't, what I'm saying, bear witness, or would you might say believe in everything that is being told to me, I definitely enforce it and I comply. I'm the type, let me just go ahead and get this out before I introduce our guest. I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now. Seriously, I test once a week. I got the rapid test. I test once a week. I just now came back from Cincinnati. My mom is vaccinated. Um, and I wanted to make sure she was safe. So before I went to her, and when I got off that plane, I did that rapid test. You know what I'm saying? I test myself before I go back to school. I take my vitamins. I've been through this. I don't know how many times. The vitamins I take, vitamin D, C, because I learned very early in the pandemic, people who are vitamin D deficient, you know, um, you know, have died, predominantly from COVID. And you know what? Black people are vitamin D deficient. So that's one of the first things I picked up. I take my zinc, take my lysine, vitamin C, of course. I do my neti pot. Got to be careful with the neti pot because it could be dangerous. Make sure and I do my sauna and I work out. I rest. I stay away from stressful people and situations. Then these are all things that support my immune system. And to keep my job, I definitely got that vaccine. All right. And before I even got the vaccine, I did the responsible thing. I had like a 45-minute Zoom meeting with my doctor. We're gonna get with that. Um, and that was eye-opening too. So, anyways, Janelle, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and your experiences, what I'm saying, with COVID during the pandemic and of course the vaccine, because I know you're vaccinated.
Yes, I am. Actually, I got my booster on Saturday.
Okay.
So
So,
I went to the 24-hour CVS down the street from my house at 6:30 in the morning and got it done, and came
mhm,
back home and crashed. So
yeah. Did
yeah,
you go to work the next day after the
no,
booster?
no, because I got it done on a Saturday. So Monday I went back to work.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, good, 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 good. So
Yeah,
tell them what you do, Janelle. You making some very, very theatrical faces. I love it. If you got just the audio of this, you're missing out. But anyways, tell them what you do, and just your experiences with the pandemic, and some feedback of what you have about, the vaccine and, Black people's, relationship, with vaccines and the medicine and all the skepticism and criticism, you know, that's coming because of this.
sure. Well, my name is Janel Jacksoin-LeFebvre. I am a science teacher, a middle school science teacher in Miami-Dade County, Florida. And yeah, I teach 7th and 8th grade comprehensive science, and I also teach honors biology. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a group of 6th graders, and the whole erupting COVID pandemic dovetailed with what I was teaching. Because in 6th grade in Florida, we teach systems of the body, including the immune system. We teach pathogens comparison. What does a bacteria do to the body versus a virus versus a fungus? So everything that was going on basically fed right into my curriculum. But what was more important was that my students got to see the scientific method unfold in real time. What I mean by that is that a lot of times when we see science in the news, we see the end result. We see the nice package with the pretty bow. We don't see the fumbles, the missteps, the redirecting, the rewriting of the hypothesis, the reconfiguring of the experiment, the evaluating of the data, the reevaluating of the data. We don't see all of that. That's what we have been seeing throughout this whole pandemic. And so a lot of people aren't used to looking at that and saying, oh, this is science doing what science does. They say, oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, those scientists, they don't know anything. So I'm going to go over here and take this herb and I'll be all right. And then they're dead 2 weeks later because of COVID. So, you know, I believe that it's really important to listen critically. It's also important to have a base, a knowledge base, in order to be able to evaluate what you're hearing and be able to determine if it's true, if it's relevant, if it's factual or not.
Right.
Now, I'm really fortunate in that a lot of my good friends, have medical training. You know, I have a doctor, I have 2 nurses, a nurse practitioner. So these are people who are used to taking medical studies and reports and breaking them down and being able to distill the important information, which are skills that we teach kids.
Right.
Because when we're working
That's
within
very
science,
important, by the way.
we're working with informational text. You know, when you read a science textbook, it's not about trying to find a hidden meaning. It's not like English. It's about being able to understand the data that is there and being able to extract the important information.
Right. And that's very important, but it's also interpreting and breaking down what you're actually being what you're actually reading too. That's very important too, because we can read it and they actually have a different lexicon when it comes to science. Like, you know what I'm saying? When they use the word host in science, it means something different if you were just, than someone, you know what I'm saying, that has guests in their home. I mean, I
Yes.
guess, metaphorically and poetically, you know what I'm saying, it could be, yeah, you could have a host virus in your body and you're hosting them. Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's a whole different lexicon, and you need people to help you break that down. That's the reason why, I wanted to talk to my doctor before I got the vaccine. I wanted to be educated on it. Also wanted to be educated on what are my options if there was exemption. I wasn't going to do the religious exemption because that's just not true to me. I'm more of a spiritual person. I wasn't going to go in there and say I'm Jehovah Witness or Seventh-day Adventist, stop it. I'm not taking it. I took vaccines. Well, I took treatment. I took shots when I went to Africa. You know what I'm saying? I took the bare minimum that I needed to take because I wanted to go there. I wanted to take that pilgrimage. So when I looked at this pandemic, of course, I'm going to take the vaccine to keep my job. If I took some medicine, not only that, but I also took the malaria pills. If I did that just to go on vacation, you know what I'm saying, to see Africa, and I can do it to to keep my job. Um, I don't think that doctors don't know anything. It's actually the complete opposite. I think that they know a lot. The thing that's interesting to me is that doctors in different communities, they think they know so much, therefore, you know what I'm saying, they argue about what they know. And they have different theories and they have hypotheses that say, well, I know more than you, so what I say is correct about this particular, you know what I'm saying, dimension of science than you do. And we always know the, age old quote, they practice medicine, they don't perfect it. That's the reason why they're continuously having these conversations about the same thing and coming to different conclusions. I mean, that's the whole reason why you have, medical journals and periodicals with articles in them, because they're constantly doing research. And and if you want to nerd out, it's pretty entertaining that one doctor says this and another doctor says this, but this doctor says this based on the demographics that they deal with and blah blah blah. So when I went to my doctor and talked to him, he does internal medicine and I had talked to him before regarding E. coli. I had come down with a bout of E. coli, and he had hit me out after he got the results back, and he asked me if I wanted to take antibiotics. So I did my research on that. It's like, well, if the bacteria or whatever, E. coli, the strain that I have, starts reproducing and they become, resistant to what's actually going on in my body. I don't know how to, explain it. I was just explaining it to him like this. Then the antibiotic can actually do more harm than good. So let me just let my body fight it. And he said, that's actually a really good idea. Let's just do that. Let's just see if the symptoms, reside, and cool down and then, or calm down and then, check back in with us. And then we did. Because of the strain I had, my body was able to fight it. And I've actually had a friend of mine some years back who took antibiotics and had an allergic reaction and had a stroke and lost almost died. You know what I'm saying? So I remember that part too. But my point is like, had I not done my research, had I not talked to one of my friends who's a nurse, who, by the way, was very skeptical of the vaccine too. It's like, I'm not, black woman. And had I not talked to her and broke things down, I think he would have allowed me to take that antibiotic. And I'm like, why? I literally got off the phone. I'm like, why would this dude agree that it's a good idea for me not to take this medicine and for the reasons why I said it wasn't a good idea, why wouldn't he just tell me in the beginning, like, these are the potential hazards and um, repercussions of taking this? And so it's like you never ever want to lose your critical mind at all. And it's just like, had I not been critical, maybe I would have took that antibiotic and put myself at more risk than just allow my body to fight it. And so when I went to him, for the vaccine, I was like, man, can you tell me what's in these? Can you tell me what's in Johnson Johnson? And I said, man, I know you're not a virologist or anything. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but man, he's trying to look things up and trying to tell me, and he can't really look it up and can't find it. Maybe he was just having a bad day. You know what I'm saying? But that's who I was assigned to be educated on what I'm putting in my body. And if I still have questions about what I'm putting in my body, if I talk to, people in my family, my friends who actually got COVID before they had a vaccine and what the doctor prescribed for them, which was a vitamin supplement, cocktail, vitamin D, zinc. There were some other things when my aunt got it and she beat it. And it's like, okay, now you have, the antibodies, saying to fight it. And so, but she was telling, now if you try to take some of these things while there's a vaccine out, now there's doctors telling you, well, there's no proof that stuff works, but you're prescribing it before we had a vaccine and it was effective. So now why are you changing the way we look at these things now? Why are you changing, you know, taking vitamins and exercise and supporting your immune system? It's like, why is it changing now? And I don't think we should abandon like our critical lens when it comes to this pandemic and then be shamed for it, saying, just because, saying, everyone wants, you to take the vaccine.
Well, there's a big difference between, the novel coronavirus and E. coli. Now, it's quite possible that you may have been exposed to that E. coli strain before, and your immune system in its library had the formula to build the antibodies to fight that. In which case, your doctor recommending a conservative treatment, which is basically, watch and wait, worked for you. But with a pathogen that had never been introduced into the human population before, watch and wait can become, watch somebody die. Now, because it is spread through aerosols, the little droplets that come out as we exhale, as we breathe, as we talk, aerosols that might land in our nose are going to be larger. Aerosols that make it all the way down into the smallest passages in our lungs, those are a lot more dangerous, because when you have aerosols that make it to the lungs, you're going to have a much worse infection. And you can't vitamin D or zinc your way out of that. So
Then
yes.
why were they prescribing that response to COVID? Like, my aunt got COVID and she went to the doctor prior to the vaccine. And see, this is what I get a lot. It's like we kind of do this kind of like low-key shaming people who want to do who want to do vitamin D, zinc, want to do lysine and things of that nature. And we kind of like, well, you can't vitamin D your way out of it. You can't zinc your way out of it. But this is exactly what her doctor prescribed to her, and it was highly effective.
Okay.
Why are we prescribing things to people as doctors if you're saying you can't zinc and vitamin D your way out of it? And remember, in the beginning of the pandemic, they were prematurely putting people on ventilators, and they were dying that way too because they didn't know.
Yeah, because a lot of what we know about COVID and treating COVID patients now, we didn't know last March, March of 2020.
But it was effective though. When she took the vitamin cocktail, in
Hmm.
which that's what her doctor phrased it as, it was highly effective. And she quarantined herself.
Okay. Did she have the original COVID strain or did she have Delta?
She had the original. This was before the variants came out. No, I understand that yeah, that definitely puts a twist on there. However, what it also is what we also need to find out is like a person for myself, I wanted them to check if I had the antibodies already
Hmm.
built in my system, if I had already gotten it and I had that resistance built in. So we have to ask ourselves and we have to figure out based on what the medical community is asking us. I mean, not asking us, sorry, pardon self, is telling us is if you have the antibodies for COVID-19, is that going to help you protect you from the novel or the Delta virus or the variants?
Well, from what I have seen, um, people who were infected with the original strain can become reinfected with Delta
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because the Delta variant has evolved into a strain that is incredibly easy to spread. And it is as transmissible as chickenpox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever had chickenpox?
Yes.
Yes, me too. I had it in
Mm-hmm.
eighth grade. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember
I beat it.
distinctly,
I'm still here.
me too. But there was a girl who had been absent. We were in the softball unit, we were in
Mm-hmm.
PE. I was never close to her than 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home, did my homework, went to bed, woke up the next day, all broken out.
Yeah.
And, I didn't go up to her. I didn't, you know,
Mm-hmm.
tag her out as she was running around the bases.
Right.
I We stayed in our dugouts and I still
Mm-hmm.
got it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, of course, the students that I teach,
It's a
they've
good
all
thing
been
that you got it
immunized.
though. But it's good that thing that you got it when you were younger. That's what they told us. And it's good that you got it and now you have the passive immunity. You're not,
Yeah,
not
but
gonna get it
shingles,
again. Yeah, now, yeah, my auntie was telling me about the shingles too. Yeah.
they're no joke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen the pictures. I mean, I've seen this like years ago. Yeah.
Hmm.
I stay nerding out. And just point of clarification, I know E. coli is not the same thing as a whole different strand than COVID. What I was trying to draw attention to is the consulting and the guidance that my doctor gave me
Hmm.
based on the relationship you should have with medicine when you come down with anything. So I know
Oh,
that they're two different things. I was just talking about the culture, the tone
hmm. Well,
of
you
the
know what?
conversation we had and how you have to. My whole point was do your research because once you come to the table knowing more with the doctor, then they understand your competence level, and then if you're able to articulate, then there is a stronger possibility that they can help you better based on what you know. Because he even told me when we were in our second consultation that we're still trying to figure this out, and he
Hmm.
said hats off to educators like yourself. Thank you for the service because we're in meetings every single day and we're still trying to figure things out. That's what he told me. And if this is the person that I'm being referred to get my information, then let's not be disingenuous and like, of course, Logic's going to spread it because they told me this is a doctor who doesn't turn a mess. I know he's not a virologist. I understand that. But this is the person they referred me to get advice about this before I
Hmm.
take the vaccine. And but here's another thing though. When I went to go take the vaccine, I went to go take Johnson and Johnson. Now
Hmm.
I don't even like telling people that. You know why? Because people usually make faces. And they make faces like, oh man, that's the one that doesn't work. People saying this, that, and the third. People died of blood clots and blah, 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 blah. So my first thing is why are they why are they even allowing you to take something that has so much, you know what I'm saying, consumer reports that are not good. But that's neither here or there. When I went to go take the vaccine, when we talk about data around vaccine, I can't make this up. They didn't take my ID. You know, they had me fill out a one sheet, of course, to see what I'm allergic to. It's my name, my birthday, not even my driver's license number, not even my social security number. Poked me in my arm, told me to go sit in a chair for 10 minutes, and then peace. And this is similar to other people that have had taken the vaccine. I just I
Wow.
just don't I just don't think that's responsible when we're collecting data in the pandemic. And
Okay,
it's
because
like,
our experiences are totally different here.
absolutely. And that's why when we were talking on the thread, you were like, well, based on the numbers, the odds were against you. And I was like, well, that depends on where you live because and your demographics, because based on not only are, what I'm saying, there are different death rates based on where you live and people are based on population, blah, 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 but also how people are getting down too. Like and collecting data. It's like we should be talking about why my experience documenting my vaccine was different than yours. We should be
Cor-
talking about that.
Yeah, because, you know, I got vaccinated in March originally. Now, it took me months to be able to get the vaccine because they only wanted to give it to
Mhm.
old people because, they
And which they
the
should
governor's
have. It
campaign.
should have been priority.
But, teachers are considered frontline workers. I
Absolutely.
my my doctor, who I've been going to for 20 years. He's board certified in family medicine. And the reason I picked him is because he went to the University of Miami School of Medicine. Because I know that if they went to UM, they had to do rounds at Jackson Memorial Hospital, the public hospital system here. And if you did rounds at Jackson, you have literally seen everything.
Hmm.
So I know with whatever I present to him, he would have been like, you know what, I think I've seen this before. I think I know what this is. But, you know, that's just background. But when this first came out in June of 2020, when I went for my, regular quarterly appointment, he said, oh, by the way, I'm testing all of my patients for COVID antibodies.
That would have been nice if they did that for me.
So every time I've gone to the doctor since then, he's been testing me for antibodies.
What'd they
Now,
say? If you don't mind me asking, you have them?
well, until I was vaccinated, I did not have them because,
Okay. So
I was just,
that
I
means
was,
you've never contracted it then.
no.
Okay.
Now, for the first marking period or so of last school year, everybody in my district was home. We were all Zooming.
Hmm.
And, my doctor agreed to fill out paperwork so that I would qualify for accommodations for the Americans with Disabilities Act
Hmm.
because of the medical conditions that I have. You know,
Hmm.
I,
Hmm.
I do have an autoimmune disorder that I've had for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, the students I teach happen to be more likely to be asymptomatic spreaders.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we
And
definitely
I
work
work
with
in
a
a
population like that.
yeah, and I work in a
Hmm.
K-8 center. So the vast majority of students that we have aren't able to be vaccinated at this time.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
really only like the top two grades, the seventh and eighth graders, who are possibly old enough to be vaccinated.
Hmm.
And, it wasn't until this year that they even were able to have access to the vaccine. So my doctor's like, you can't set foot into your classroom until you're fully vaccinated. So, he did the paperwork, I turned it in, and I was home until mid-April. And so I came back to my physical classroom the last 7 weeks of school. Now, he's really good about, if I ask him something, he'll research it, and he, will accept things that I find that I bring with me. And so when I was looking, I'm like, what was concerning to me was the fact that, teenagers tended to be asymptomatic spreaders. Um, People with chronic conditions, high blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
you know, autoimmune issues, had worse outcomes statistically.
Yeah. Those people need to get vaccinated.
Yeah. So
For real.
exactly.
Because I've been all over the world. And in comparison to like Africa and Haiti, I've even been to China. Like, our diet is not all that fresh. It's not
No,
good.
it's not.
And so when we look at our obesity rates, when we look at our cases of diabetes, when we look in the Black community of people who are vitamin D deficient, we become prime candidates for this virus. So I'm all for people, you know what I'm saying, who um have pre-existing illnesses, compromised immune systems, getting a vaccine. Um, but I don't think that's not the case for everybody. And that's another conversation I had with my doctor,
Hmm. Well, no,
about, go ahead.
it's not the case for everyone. And there's a lot that you can do with diet because I do believe that, you know, whether you have illness or health starts at the end of your fork.
Hmm.
And, I do believe that as a community, we need to be a lot more conscious about what we're putting into our bodies.
Hmm.
And, you know, but food deserts are a real thing.
Food is medicine
Yes.
or
But
poison.
the dearth of places where you can get fresh produce in a
Yes,
lot of Black communities is a serious
absolutely.
issue. And, that's something that needs to be
Environmental
addressed.
racism. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so, at
But
the
the
same,
literacy, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the
mhm,
literacy around how to navigate those food deserts also is a factor too. So there is dietary literacy that, or nutritional literacy that can teach you how to survive, and also not just survive, be successful and actually have good health in those environments too. But that's again, like I'm not the one to, you know, throw my privilege and tuck my hand. I know I'm operating from a position of privilege. And so knowing that I have privilege and my health being one of my biggest privileges that I really appreciate, when my doctor asked me, well, what are your concerns? Is that my concern is that I'm putting something in my body um, that has not been approved through historically the natural way. It's been, past vaccines or treatments have been approved. And I don't want to compromise the relationship I have with my immune system. It's not about no conspiracy theories. I mean, a little bit has something to do with the, medical apartheid, how we always get the short end of the stick, but that can play a factor even, on the other end, what you're talking about, that when it actually comes to COVID, we get the short end of the stick. Like we get the poorest treatment. We don't get the vaccines, you know what I'm saying? And we die. And the statistics is telling us that we're dying most. But I think that's a legitimate pushback. It's like I don't know what this vaccine is going to do with based on the relationship I have with my immune system.
mhm.
Not not you, not the next person, not some older person in a nursing home who needs it, not someone with diabetes, not someone with heart conditions. Because I got friends who got heart conditions and they don't want to, they're willing to lose their job because they have heart issues and they don't qualify for medical exemption and they don't trust the vaccine. And for people like that to be shamed, dismissed, and just like be insensitive towards them, I think it's kind of messed up. And when I asked my doctor, okay, well, how can I qualify for the medical exemption? I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with antibodies. Maybe if I get tested and prove that I've gotten it, I was asymptomatic and I built it up, you know what I'm saying? But then we still have the thing with the novel and the Delta and the variants and stuff. I get that. But maybe I thought I could get my foot in the door and maybe I can get a medical exemption. Doc proceeds to tell me you qualify for a medical exemption when you can prove that you're allergic to the actual vaccine. I'm like, don't you got to take the vaccine to be allergic to the vaccine? And I started laughing. He started laughing. He said, yeah. I said, but my whole thing is I don't want to take the vaccine. So I got to take the vaccine and be allergic to the vaccine to prove that I have a medical exemption. Cut it out, man. Like, stop playing games, man. Like, that's a legitimate reason not to want to take the vaccine, is because you don't know if it's going to compromise the relationship you have with your immune system.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, I have an immune system that's kind of an overachiever, but in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking at the vaccines, now my mom, she's 78. She took the Moderna, and the Moderna vaccine was the one that everyone had really, pronounced reactions to, especially with the second dose. She
Okay.
had nothing. Nothing.
Gotcha.
And I'm like,
Yeah, I've heard that before too. Yeah.
yeah, I took the Pfizer because everyone in my family took the Pfizer. I took it, my husband took it, my daughter took it.
Mm-hmm.
And as it turns out, the Pfizer vaccine has about 1/3 of the active ingredient in each dose as the Moderna.
Right.
But the results, as far as antibody production in the body,
Mm-hmm.
is about equal. So I'm like, hmm. And so when I did take the first 2 doses, I had a little soreness on my arm. I
Mm-hmm.
was a little tired for about a day, and then the next day I was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now,
mine wasn't like that.
we'll see, yours was
I
built
still
different.
got yeah, I had a pounding headache. I had the chills, sweating, my back was hurting, my neck was sore. It was basically I had the flu for 24 hours. So I just sat in bed and took the day off. The other thing was what happened, and I researched it. I have a pain now in my back. It feels like a pinched nerve. And it feels like at one point there was a pre-existing injury there, but it was healed up. Now I went to my auntie. She's a massage therapist. She says she's had other patients come through after they taken the vaccine, and she's massaged out some things. And she says, "Yeah, some of this probably is the vaccine from the shot because it probably went in there and aggravated some things."
Hmm.
She said, "But it's also, just we're just tight. There's a difference between tightness and toneness," is what she explained to me as a massage therapist. So even your condition of your based on how you work out, your flexibility and stuff like that can play a role and create pre-existing um, circumstances and conditions that can make you have an aggravating, what I'm saying, response. And I interviewed a couple of my coworkers. He said it, and he was like saying it was like almost paralysis. He couldn't even lift his arm. He said that lasted for 3 months. I can't imagine dealing with this for 3 months. This pinched nerve feeling. It's aggravating. Um, and I don't think I should. I don't. And people say, well, you know what? If you caught COVID, it would have probably been a lot worse. So be glad that you just had your pounding headache, your flu-like symptoms, and your pinched nerve for however long you had. It's better than getting that respiratory virus. And I said, okay, well then there's also, what I'm saying, stats that says that I wouldn't have had none of that even if I caught it based on my immune system. So don't be dismissive and act like I'm supposed to just shut up and not tell you about my experience of how I was pissed off. That's how I feel during this. Like, it's like people just want you to do what they're doing. And if you don't do what they're doing, whether you're vaxxed or unvaxxed, I'm seeing it on both sides.
Mhm.
I'm seeing vaccinated people act like outbreak monkeys out here. They're running around being reckless, going to super spreaders, no masks, not washing their hands. Like, if it ain't COVID, it's gonna be something else. We got to learn how to live with these viruses. And a part of living with a virus is taking care of yourself and hygiene. Duh.
You know, I saw this T-shirt that I wanted to get and wear to work, but I thought that might be offensive. It says, "I'm vaccinated,
Get the
but I..."
vaccine or die.
No, it says, "I'm vaccinated, but I still mask up because I have trust issues and y'all are nasty."
Oh damn. It kept going. It was like a run-on sentence. Like
I know.
As an English major and a writer, I would just not like it because it was too long.
Well, see, as an English major, I thought it was perfect. And my mom was like, "Hmm, where can I get one?"
You know what? I I know you probably read these things too. I know you've read the things that talk about the masking is, you know, only helps so much and it's not that serious. I don't really care about that, how effective it is. The fact is that people um says it helps them feel safe and that there is research behind that it does work. I don't even care if it works or not. All I would need to know is that someone feels safer by me wearing a mask.
Okay, look here.
It's as simple as that. It's like if you just want to bare minimize it, like it should be that simple. It doesn't hurt anyone to wear a mask.
Mm, I found out over the holidays last year that my sister had COVID, she and her husband.
Hmm.
Now, my sister, my niece, and my daughter are also teachers.
Hmm.
And last year, my sister taught third grade.
Hmm.
You know, they were eating lunch in the room, and the little girl came up to her, you know, while she had her little face shield off,
Gotcha.
and she coughed, and
That's
that's
not
how she
good.
caught COVID. And
Hmm.
I didn't find out until New Year's Day when she was like, "Oh, this is the first day that I've had that I can breathe without pain." And I'm
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
so when I went back into the classroom the following April,
Hmm.
I was masked up. I wear an N95 every day.
Hmm.
And just today, one of my students, you know, he has on one of the little like surgical looking masks, the black
Yeah.
ones they
They said
sell.
those are effective though.
Yeah, but he was like, "Miss, do you have any tissue?" Because, you know, something was going on. He had to sneeze. So
Hmm.
I have the antiviral tissue in my on my desk. I'm like, "Here you go, babe."
Hmm.
And did he not sneeze with his nose uncovered 6 feet from my desk? Yes, he did. And do you know what?
Hmm.
I felt really good that I had on an N95 mask.
Yeah.
So it's not for them, it's for me.
Yeah, and the N95s, they're electrified or something like that, right?
No, they're not electrified. What they
No,
do is that
I'm being serious. There's a science. No, I'm telling you, I might not be articulating it right. They said there's a technology behind the N95s and why they're more effective than the KN95s. This is what they told us as COVID supervisors because the KN95s are not electrified. Seriously, look it up.
okay,
I'm
the
being
the,
serious.
the KN95s are Chinese. So they're not made to the
I
same
thought they were
standard as...
Korean. That's what the K stands for. The K doesn't stand for Chinese. Yeah, I heard it would stand for Korean.
Yeah, they sell them in Korea, but they're made in China.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there are
I'm just telling you
several,
what the K means.
yeah, there are several different masks made to different
Hmm.
standards, EU
Hmm.
standards, you know, Korean standards, Chinese standards. And some
Exactly.
of them are roughly comparable to an N95. And so
Hmm.
if you can't get one, you know, you get the other and
Hmm.
you should be okay. Um, I think what you might have heard is that there's an electrostatic method of, you know, filtering that the N95 uses.
Yeah,
because
that's what I
it
was trying
does
to say.
filter out really small particles.
Electrostatic charge.
Yeah.
In the KN95 respirators employ an electrostatic mechanism to attract and intercept foreign particles. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
I got the word electro in there. My bad.
I know.
So it's
Once you,
electrostatic. I could have
yeah.
sworn they said electrified. That it is electrified, but my
No, because
bad.
then
Sorry.
I'd be zapped every time, some aerosol hit my mask.
That's not necessarily true. That's not true. You can create electro by rubbing your hand or foot on carpet. It doesn't mean you're always gonna attract. That's not true.
Ah.
Come on now. Um. Anyways, so real quick, about the mask.
Mm-hmm.
See, things keep changing about that because they got the Gators. They say that not only they're not effective, they actually help spread COVID. That's why
Well,
they're not allowed in the schools.
duh.
That's what they're saying.
Okay. How many layers does a gator have?
I don't know. I just know you're not supposed to wear them, and I just say you can't wear them.
One
But
layer.
I think that they're made out of I think they're made out of like polyester or something like that. Seriously, and not cotton.
True.
I think that's the reason. I think that's what the reason why they were teaching us why they're not allowed because they're not, made out of cotton.
There's
Because
only one
cotton isn't
layer,
allowed. hmm
and the weave of the fabric is
hmm
not tight enough to keep viruses from passing through.
Right. So it keeps it everything there, in which could help to pass it more. Yeah.
And probably doesn't do a good job of keeping aerosols from coming out into the ambient air.
hmm hmm
Because
So
masks really, it's twofold. It's filtering air that you're breathing in from the outside. It's keeping your aerosols from getting into the ambient air.
mm. So is the answer just vaccines now? Like, I mean, it's almost like a healthy immune system is almost like the new, bachelor's degree. It's like it's not worth anything. You need a master's, couple of masters or a doctorate. I mean, it's like when I went to Haiti, um, people like to dismiss stories and experiences. I think anecdotal experiences are just as valuable data when used correctly. Because data is only as good as the questions you ask it. So I went to Haiti and I'm like, first of all, I had to get a test to get out of here, to go to Haiti. Had to test negative and I had to get a test to get out of there too. To get in and
Hmm.
out, you need a negative test.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what have y'all been doing in Haiti? Because they were telling us not to go to Haiti during the pandemic because, Haiti is so bad. And that's a whole different podcast about how they be doing Haiti. Um, but I looked at their numbers and their numbers was a lot lower than the United States. And that has a lot to do with their population. That has a lot to do with, um, you know, them keeping, outsiders and foreigners out and blah, blah, blah. What have y'all been doing down here? And he said, we just, as soon as we got word, we've been taking, drinking our ginger tea. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, that's good. Ginger was one of the things that I read prior to the vaccine that would be helpful in preventing and also responding to COVID if you got it. But I know that if you get COVID down there in Haiti, that's when stuff gets real. It's because they don't have the medical infrastructure like the United States to really respond to it like we do. Um, but I noticed like a lot of people like to be very dismissive of like very like organic or indigenous ways to combat viruses. However, we know we gonna have to deal with viruses as long as you're on this planet. They're not going away, and
No.
so I just don't understand why we are criticizing, dismissing strategies and lifestyles that actually um support and in some people's case strengthen your immune system if we know we have to live with viruses, knowing that a compromising immune system makes you vulnerable to viruses?
Well, why
It
can't you do
doesn't
both?
make any sense.
Because here's what went on in my house. So last year, I spent most of the year teaching from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the schools opened up, my daughter, being young and healthy and not having any conditions that would keep her, at home on an ADA accommodation, had to go back
Mm-hmm.
into the building.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she taught in a title
Go back into the building as a student or as a
as a teacher.
staff member? As a teacher. Okay, so your daughter,
Yeah,
you okay.
because she's
You
in her
don't look like
third.
you don't look you like you got grown teachers like that, but it's all good.
Thank you. My baby is 26.
Yeah, my baby is 22. My oldest is 24. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, she had to go back into the building. And so, you know, here I am thinking, oh my God, she got sent home 4 times on
Mm-hmm.
quarantine
Mm-hmm.
before she was vaccinated. And so the first time she got sent home on quarantine, there's a conversation in my chat with my, you know, nurse friends and my NPs. I'm like, look, she just got told that, a kid that she has in her class tested positive. What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, been
I
through that
got
many
the
times.
I got the list of the supplements and what to add to the diet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, every Monday and Thursday she was getting tested
Mm-hmm.
because, my district had an agreement with one of the local clinics. And so they had like these pop-up trucks where employees and their families could get tested for free.
Mm-hmm.
So every Monday and Thursday she was getting tested. She was doing the dietary regimen. She was masked up all the time in her room.
Mm-hmm.
So she did not remove her mask while she was in her room.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time she tested, she was negative.
Yeah, that might be the new norm. I went
Well,
to China and I went to China in what 2017.
mhm.
They were wearing masks over there just due to the pollution.
Well, you know what? In Asia, it is normalized to wear a
Mm-hmm.
mask if not just in cases of where there's a lot of pollution, because China's kind of significant in that because all those
Yeah,
coal-based
yeah.
fire
Mm-hmm.
power plants.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have just a regular cold, you wear a
Mm-hmm.
mask. It's a courtesy to
Yeah,
other people.
right.
Imagine that, huh? But this year, I I built air purifiers for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I took MERV 13 filters
Mm-hmm.
and I put them on the back of a box fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I calculated the volume of the room, you know,
Mm.
so length, width, height,
That's dope.
so I know how many cubic feet of air are in the room. I know how many cubic feet per minute flow through the fan and how long it takes to filter all the air in the room with the fan at a certain speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my room, because they also use my room for night school,
Mm-hmm.
mine stays on all the time. With
Mm-hmm.
my daughter's room, she turns it on when she comes in. If she
Right.
turns the
Is
fan
that
on
because
high,
y'all don't have good HVAC systems?
well, we have HVAC systems and they say that,
See,
they change
see,
the filters, but I didn't
see.
see it happen and I worked summer school.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I'm not going to be in a room with some little asymptomatic spreaders.
So that's what I was
And
talking about. That's what I was talking about in the thread, though. You feel me? It's like when we first started this whole thing,
mhm,
the teachers unions got together and said, "Hey, man, we don't feel comfortable coming back into the schools because the HVAC system, we don't know the condition. We know this thing is aerosol."
yeah.
Next thing I know, so we can come back to school, I was being briefed by my COVID supervisors at district that our HVAC systems were A-OK.
Well, you know what? At my school, each room has its own AC system.
All I'm saying is,
So, they say They've upped the filtration. They have them set to where like 2 hours before kids come in, they kick on and they're bringing in air from outside and all this. I'm like, you know what? Okay, but my DIY purifier is going to be over here in the corner. And every 9 minutes and 24 seconds, my air is scrubbed.
Right. I mean, it's just like
Because, I
the
do have some
pandemic in
kids.
itself and the pandemic in itself and the quarantine was it was counterintuitive to, supporting your immune system, staying inside, not getting some of your most, vital natural ingredients that support your immune system, was the sunlight and air.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, but we're not talking about that. Like that's something we need to talk about. Like that's like common sense. Air and sunshine are natural vital ingredients that support your immune system. That's
Well,
proven.
yeah,
That's facts.
because you use sunlight to make vitamin D. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like what they were telling us to do was counterintuitive. And it's like, oh my God, you're not supposed to say that. Why? Why? It's like when you say logical things that make sense according to what the science community has told us in the past historically, because we're in a pandemic, now you're a troublemaker. So when logic says it was counterintuitive for them to tell us to be indoors, not go outside and get fresh air and sunlight, which support our immune system, now I'm a troublemaker.
Well, you
When
know
they
what?
told us, hold on, real quick, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
Uh-huh.
trying to do a dramatic pause.
Oh,
But
sorry.
when they told us, my bad, I'm gonna let you finish. When they told us, no, seriously, to wear mask, then don't wear masks. But then they didn't tell us that the reason why they were telling us not to wear masks is because they wanted to preserve them for the medical community and first responders so they wouldn't run out. And then once they got the supplies out, now wear mask again. Then just recently the CDC says, okay, people are getting vaccinated. Since you're being vaccinated now, you don't have to wear masks. Now they're coming back and saying, no, you need to wear masks. So we're just supposed to ignore all this stuff that they're telling us and just roll with the punches and just trust the medical community and all their mixed messages from masks to now, uh you know, textile tracing it's very low. Like surfaces don't need to be cleaned as often as they were telling us because you know for you to contract it from a surface is at an all-time low now. Okay, that changed.
Well, you know what? Remember when I said that the whole pandemic is allowing us to see the scientific method unfold in real time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
When you have a science experiment, you have variables. Variables are
Hmm.
conditions which may change or factors which may change that can
Hmm.
alter the outcome of the experiment or the test.
Hmm.
So there's one variable that is constantly changing,
Hmm.
and that is human behavior.
Absolutely.
And so science is data driven, it's
Hmm.
evidence driven.
Hmm.
So when people choose to behave in a certain way, there's evidence that naturally follows,
Hmm.
and scientists respond to that evidence.
Yeah, that's why on the CDC site it says what we are learning.
Yeah,
It literally says
because
that.
remember, everything is new.
Right.
Everything that we're finding out is new.
Right.
And
So
then
if
as
if they're
people
learning, then we're definitely
modify,
learning.
yeah, as people modify their behavior,
Hmm.
the evidence will be examined and recommendations will come out that respond to those changes in behavior.
So if it's an experiment, and I'm not trying to play word games and trip you up and say I got you. I've been always thinking this. I'm trying to have a serious, non-snarky conversation. Seriously. If
Okay.
it's an experiment, then what stops us from being the experiment? Because if you have variables, you have to have a control group too to get some reliable, data from that.
Hmm.
So
Well,
how do
here's
we
the
know that some of these vaccines or slash treatments aren't placebos? Because they
well,
have
here's
to
the
have a
thing.
control group.
Hmm. When we say experiment, when and we use it as a synonym for scientific investigation, it
Mm-hmm,
doesn't always mean, the classic experiment that you think of in the lab with the,
mm-hmm,
test
mm-hmm,
variable, the outcome variable.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes an experiment is just observation.
Absolutely. I don't think that's what they're doing. They wouldn't be that casual with this though. It wouldn't just be like, oh, we're just gonna see what
No,
happens. No, this stuff is all planned.
but you know
And
what?
that's the
Here's the thing.
respect, and that's the respect, seriously, that I give scientists, that they're
Hmm.
not going to just be casual and be like, "Oh, this is just an observation." No, this is
No,
planned out. This is
no,
serious.
science is incremental.
Hmm.
It moves forward in small steps and
Hmm.
it's cumulative. So it
Hmm.
builds on what has come before. So, I was originally a vaccine skeptic. I was like, I'm not putting in some vaccine. I don't know where this came from. But the fact that, you know, I teach seventh graders about
Hmm.
DNA and RNA
Hmm.
and protein synthesis and, replication and genetic
Hmm.
mutations, I started digging and I started looking at what went into the mRNA vaccines.
Hmm.
There's 50 years of research leading up to the development of those vaccines,
Hmm.
back to when we figured out what, you know, mRNA was and what it did, and then,
Hmm.
the years of failure of trying to get mRNA into the cell and not have it broken down or attacked by the
Hmm.
body's immune system, and then
Right.
figuring out a delivery vehicle for that. You see, small steps. So the cumulative knowledge led up to the point where once the genome for the virus was sequenced,
Hmm.
then they could locate the gene for the spike protein.
Hmm.
And they could say,
To
okay, we
send
can
to send the body the message.
just encapsulate the instructions to build the protein. So
Hmm.
that's the vaccine. It's the instructions for the protein. So that gets injected, goes into the cell, goes into the ribosome, which is your
Hmm.
protein factory. And so
Hmm.
your body starts cranking out the spike proteins. And so your immune system learns to identify it as foreign and mark it for destruction.
Hmm.
So instead of having to kill the virus, and inject it,
Exactly.
all you've got are instructions enclosed in
Exactly.
a fat.
So keeping that in mind,
Hmm.
I love how you broke that down. And this is the kind of the exchange and back and forth that you and I and Tiffany were having. She's a nurse. She had her, she was skeptical of the vaccine too and saying the same things. And it's interesting because like 90% of doctors taking the vaccine and it drops to 50% when it comes to nurses. And I'm sure it drops even lower than that when it comes to black nurses. But I got wind of an article in 2015 talking
Hmm.
about what you just now talked about, not killing that host, but sending like the instructions. It says vaccines that let the host survive but do not prevent the spread of the pathogen relax the selection, allowing the evolution of hotter pathogens to occur. This type of vaccine is often called a leaky vaccine. When vaccines prevent transmission, as in the case for nearly all vaccines used in humans, this type of evolution towards increased virulence is blocked. But when vaccines leak, allowing at least some pathogen transmission, they could create the ecological conditions that would allow hot strains to emerge and persist.
Hmm. Is that article that deals with that virus that happens in chickens?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do believe that. I believe
Hmm.
so. You're saying this has been debunked?
No, I'm
Okay.
saying that I remember reading it. Um,
Okay.
well, what would make a leaky vaccine for humans?
I mean, how I translated and how it was broken down to me, the conversation that I had with my doctor is that we're not getting like in vaccines prior, we're actually getting, a piece of the actual virus put inside of
Mhm.
this is not what's happening with COVID.
No, you're
Now,
just
when I
getting the
took Johnson
instructions.
and yeah, exactly. When I took Johnson and Johnson, it said it had SARS in it, SARS CoV dash 2. That's what it says.
See, the
As an
Johnson,
go ahead.
yeah, with the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, what they
Hmm.
did is that they took a DNA-based virus, because most viruses are RNA-based with one
You're talking
strand.
about SARS, right? Because that's what
It
it says. When it says active ingredient, see, this is what they got to do for the consumer or the patient.
okay,
Like they got to break this stuff down. Because like what the conversation where we're having online, when I look it up on the CDC, it says active ingredient for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson and Johnson, and they use
mhm,
that word, and they
SARS.
use the word SARS
Hmm.
CoV dash 2,
Yeah, that's the.
and they use the words mRNA. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off for
Mhm,
Pfizer and Moderna as active ingredients.
yes.
So when I'm
Be-
saying like, and you and Tiffany were very good in teaching like it takes in the stages, and like eventually Johnson and Johnson does get to that point where it does produce mRNA, but it it takes it in it takes longer,
yeah,
I
like I
guess.
said, that Pfizer and
The
Moderna
batteries aren't
makes the
included.
right turn, and Johnson and Johnson is three left turns, so you get there
Exactly.
eventually.
Right.
So what they do with the Johnson and Johnson is that they take like an old inactivated virus,
Got you. Yeah.
and
I understood
they
that
kind
part.
of
Yeah.
hollow it out, and then they
Yep.
put the instructions for building the spike protein
Yeah.
inside
I
that.
actually like that. I when I read it, I like that idea better than getting the mRNA or mRNA. I just like that. I like that. I just anyways.
For me, it was too many steps. It's like, just give me the mRNA, let me make it myself, and just let me go on my day.
Yeah, it's too many steps. That's one way to look at it, but it's several steps when it comes to Pfizer and Moderna because you got to go back and take more than one shot. So
Only, well, you know
to the
what?
layperson, it looks like there's more than one step when you take the Pfizer and Moderna. To lay people,
Yeah, I agree that throughout the pandemic, a lot of the scientists have not done the best job at communicating with the public
thank you.
because they're used to talking to themselves,
Thank you.
and they're not used to talking to people who may have varying degrees of background knowledge. And, that's one of the reasons why I feel a responsibility to kind of stay up to date with it, because a lot of times my kids come to me with these kinds
Mhm.
of problems, or random health questions. You know, Miss, my abuela had a stroke. What's that? How does that work? My grandma has diabetes. What is
Mhm.
what does that do to the body? Why does she have to keep pricking her finger? So
Mhm.
I this is my 15th year teaching,
Mhm.
so I have quite a bit of practice addressing these kinds of questions from my kids.
Yeah.
So when it comes to things that are happening around them in real time that are impacting their lives, I have
Mhm.
to figure out a way to break it down for them. So
Mhm.
that's what I've been doing since March of 2020.
So, I mean, the question that's on the screen right now, like based on your experience as an educator and taking the value, I mean, how do we manage all the skepticism and legitimate feedback we have of the medical community when it comes to the pandemic stuff not being explained? Like, how do you manage that? It's like I feel like it's super duper, and I keep using the word disingenuous because that's how I feel. Like it's just
Hmm.
not. It's very insensitive not to explain these things to people, knowing that people have been going back and forth in the medical community, and then when people are skeptical, it'd be like, oh man, just relax, just take the vaccine, just shut up.
Hmm.
I feel like people are saying shut up and just take the vaccine and everything will work its way out. They're not telling people how to support their immune system so they won't be vulnerable, and perfect candidates for a virus.
Yeah. You know, there are lots of moving pieces here. There's, taking charge of your health so that you can be less of a target for a, a pathogen looking for an opportunity. There's,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's exactly how I see it too. Like, ooh, that's easy victim. Oh
yeah,
yeah, I can get in there. I can get in there.
yeah, there's finding people who can explain it to you
Hmm.
if you have questions. And, that's one of the things that I kind of do for people in my friend group and or my associates. If they don't understand, I have, people who call me, Janelle, can you tell me how this works? And so, I do that for them. Um, it when you're looking at, you know, medical professionals or scientists to follow on maybe on social media or, on the news, look for people who, have their stuff together. Yeah, there are, throughout the month and a half or month and a half, the year and a half, I wish, that
Yeah,
we've been dealing with
been a
this.
while.
I
Hmm.
know. There are certain scientists who, when they come on TV, I'm like, oh, I'll stop and listen to them because, I've researched them. I've followed what they say. I understand, you know, their approach, and I can see that they do a good job of communicating, not just with me, with who I'm a layperson with some degree of familiarity with what they're talking about, but their ability to connect with, you know, the average person and be
Hmm.
able to communicate clearly, which, as we know, is not a gift that all academics have.
No.
No. So, there's that. There's, staying in tune with what people are actually concerned about. A lot of the, negative pushbacks that we've seen with the vaccine, you know, we may have had ourselves. One of my things was, well, they haven't tested this enough. How can you come up with a vaccine in just a couple of months? And then I did the research. I'm like, oh, because there's 15 years already invested in taking mRNA and
Yeah,
making,
for sure.
yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how they can do that. All right.
But that's
So
not 15. That's not 15 years for your unique, diverse immune
well,
system and body, though. That's all I'm saying.
it's 15 years of taking mRNA after we figured out what it does and using it as a vehicle to deliver, you know, a vaccine that instead of injecting you with a dead virus or
Hmm.
a weakened virus,
Exactly.
just some instructions to build part of the virus so then your body can learn how to fight it. And once it has
And it's really
the
okay.
those plans for the antibodies, so they will always have those plans in the library.
I understand that. Yeah, but that doesn't make it a real vaccine in it if it doesn't have a weakened or dead virus in it.
Yes, it does.
That just makes it a
It's
treatment.
it no, it is a nucleic acid vaccine. It is technically a vaccine.
It's not the
It
same, but it's not the
yes,
same as like a wait, let me finish. It's not the same like a flu vaccine or polio. It's not the same as that because they actually had a weakened or dead virus in it.
okay, but
So
the Tesla is not like a 1953 Edsel either.
yeah, but like you just now did, there's definite words to differentiate between the two, and they need to do that. We know that a Tesla is not a 1950, whatever you said. We definitely know that.
Well,
We definitely know that.
okay, so
We can tell
we
by the
know that
price and the technology involved in the car. And that's what I'm saying. Like, let's not be disingenuous. The
no,
technology of this vaccine is totally different than the polio, or a flu vaccine. It's a whole different technology.
exactly.
So you need to explain that to people and then say it's a vaccine and it's working the same way. It's not working the same way.
No, it is a new technology, but it is still a vaccine. You can't
Okay.
say, well, just because it doesn't have a dead virus, it's not a vaccine. No, it is. It is considered a nucleic acid vaccine
Okay.
because it goes into the cell,
Mm-hmm.
goes into the ribosome,
Mm-hmm.
makes the ribosome build that specific protein
Mm-hmm.
that we have, you know, found on the genome of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And then once your body starts cranking out that protein, then
Mm-hmm.
your immune system can flag it as not self,
Mm-hmm.
kill it, and keep the plans to build the antibody.
Right. So it's called a vaccine because that's what the medical community has made a consensus of. That's what they're going to call it.
It is a nucleic acid vaccine. Now,
Because that's what the medical community has come to a consensus to call it. That's what
well,
you're saying.
keep in
Because they could
mind,
call it a treatment if they wanted to.
well, treatment is pretty vague
Yeah.
because, all sorts of things can be a treatment, but
Mm-hmm.
something that is given before
Mm-hmm.
exposure to a pathogen
Mm-hmm.
to, stimulate the body's immune system to be
Mm-hmm.
able to fight the pathogen should it come in the
Right.
future. That is what we usually call a vaccine.
Right. But what I'm saying is this, and reason why I'm calling it a treatment and they need to explain it to lay people is because it's a new technology. It's a technology that's operating different than vaccines that we're familiar with, like flu or polio.
Hmm.
And with this vaccine, you can still catch it and you can still pass it. And so that's those are some category, differences that need to be, what I'm saying, highlighted and not just brushed over. Like being able to catch it and pass it. But the reason why you're doing that, which I've gone back and forth with people about, the research I've done, is to get herd immunity. Michael Osterholm told us about this way at the start of the pandemic. The CDC even has it on their website, but they call it population immunity. That we're trying to get people vaccinated as much as possible so we can develop herd immunity to build up, what I'm saying, that resistance to it.
Hmm.
It needs to be explained like that.
Well, I think it has been. It's just that
People are
people,
literally telling me that I am spreading crap by saying that. And it's on the CDC page. It's on the C like they're what that's what they're going for. And we know that, you know, like you said, I like how you did it. Like we need to like do some role playing, you know what I'm saying, that has a little bit of theatrical effects to it, like the virus, like, oh, I can't go there. Antibodies there. Oh, the resistance there. Why? Because it's herd immunity, fool. Back up, you know?
hmm
And like I had a conversation with my doctor. It's like, I think that it will be incredibly irresponsible for the CDC and our government to say it really is survival of the fittest.
well, you know what? I live in a
It
state where
is.
1 out of 500 people who were alive in March 2020 are no longer
Mhm,
alive.
mhm.
1 in 500.
Why do you think there's so much emphasis on how many people rest in peace um, on the people who are deceased rather than the people who have survived?
Well,
If
because death is.
one out of 368 people pass away from
Mhm,
COVID, God bless, and 50% of them are actually who get COVID are actually symptomatic. Why do you think there's so much emphasis on such a low number of people who die? Now I know like 0.81% of people is still a lot of people. I understand that.
mhm.
I get that. But why is there an emphasis on the 1% and not the 99%?
A few different reasons. I'm thinking possibly one reason is that there's such a wide swath across demographic bands. You've got the very young, you've got the very old, you've got, you know, those who are in the prime of life, you've got those who were healthy, those who were sick, those who had other comorbidities. You know,
That's not it's
yeah,
not that wide of a variant of people. That they've been telling us since the beginning that there's a specific group of people who are more vulnerable and who are dying.
yes, but there are also people who, you know, fairly young, healthy, no
Oh yeah,
comorbidities.
that's even lower than 1% though. That's like not even the 1% of the 1% though. Like now we're really splitting hairs now.
I'm just
That's why,
saying that it's something
because if it's
that
really
has
that
been.
bad, then
Mhm.
if it's really that bad, then they're really being irresponsible, not allowing the 74 million human beings who are 12 and below who aren't even authorized to get the vaccine. If that's the
Okay,
case,
keep
they're
in
being
mind,
real irresponsible with that group of people.
keep in mind that I live in a state where the newly hired um, Surgeon General said
Hmm.
that if a child is tests positive for COVID, that their parents can make the decision to quarantine them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, if they don't want to quarantine them, then they can just send them to school.
Yeah. Yeah, you live in a state where I think the governor said, I mean, I think he encouraged people to get it, but he's not mandating it. Is that
Well,
correct?
no, at the same time that he was encouraging people to get the
Right.
vaccine, he was also selling merchandise on his
Yeah.
reelection website that,
Right.
showed him beating up Dr. Fauci.
Right, right, right. So he's not mandating school officials and to get the vaccine.
No, to the
Yeah,
contrary,
yeah.
for
Our
school
governor said,
districts,
yeah, you got to get it.
who put mask mandates in place, he
Right,
has threatened to withhold the salaries of
right,
school board members from,
right.
being dispersed from the state level.
Hmm. Hmm. That's unfortunate. He
Yeah.
should he shouldn't do that. That's
So
not cool.
it's been an interesting time to be a science teacher.
Right. That's not cool. But what I'm saying is, I think that I don't want to get deep into the weeds. So let me be careful with this comment I'm saying. I'm serious.
Okay.
I think that there is a lot of um, value in paying attention to the 99% of people who are not dying of COVID and why they're not dying and how to strengthen those strategies and spread those strategies.
Oh, I think that's fair. I think there are probably quite a few different approaches that produce people who survive COVID. You may
Yes,
have you may have people who, you know, eat right, exercise, maybe only got
hmm,
a large aerosol droplet in their noses.
absolutely.
You may have people
A lot of this
who,
is about viral loads too, and they don't teach us that too. But go ahead.
yeah, well, they actually do. When you look at the CDC report on the Delta variant
But
and how,
we talking about lay people. You know what I'm talking about. How do you?
okay,
I bet you ask seriously some of your staff members, how do you reduce your viral load? And they be like, what?
no, they ask me.
Right. But if you they ask you because they don't know. Janelle, if you don't stop it, if you
What?
ask them, they're stumped. The majority are going to be stumped. I think
Yes.
so. I think so. Especially in your state, if he's beating up Fauci, your governor's beating up Fauci.
Well, he'd like to.
But look, listen. If we highlight the strategies, the lifestyles, um, and choices that make you less vulnerable to COVID, science has told us, the medical community has told us through data that 1% of people who die would actually get lower than that.
Well, I think that would
It's one
be,
thing to have diabetes in a pre-existing condition, and it's another thing not to do anything about it.
yeah. Well, I think that would be helpful, especially for the people who can't get the vaccine. I have a good friend of mine who is a teacher. She and her husband,
That's a good point.
they have in the past reacted badly to vaccines. So their doctors
Mm-hmm,
told them, you can't take this. So they're relying on the rest of us.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
And all the Seventh-day Adventists and Jehovah's Witness, the Muslims, and yeah,
well, from what I've heard though,
or getting
um,
religious exemptions,
um,
and the
the
11-year-olds.
the witnesses that I've talked to are vaccinated.
Okay, I'm just saying we got employees and staff members that who are saying they're Christian. They don't need no affidavit or nothing, and they're getting religious exemptions. So for those people, I trust that they're reducing their viral load, they're taking their neti pot, they're doing a sauna, and they're taking their vitamins. I hope they're zinking their way out of this.
They might have to turmeric and cayenne their way out of that too.
You better, you know why I said that as a joke, man. Seriously, are you against, seriously? Because you said the odds were against me. You said that online. You
I
said the
did.
odds were against. But how would you know that when you don't even know my medical history? You ain't never seen my health chart. How would you know that the odds are against me, Janelle?
Okay. I'm looking at the fact that you're Black, you're over 40, you are a frontline worker. Unless you stay in your office where you have your own personal air purifier, you're going to be exposed to some stuff.
That's
Now,
I'm exposed to it every day. No, seriously, I'm
if you,
exposed to it every day. I'm around COVID every day. COVID hits me in the face, my arms, my head, my ears every single day. That doesn't mean the odds against me. What makes the odds against me even more is if you looked at my medical chart and start looking at and checking out that immune system, but also my practices too, like and what I do to
mhm.
protect myself, how I sanitize and follow all the COVID protocols. That has a lot to do with it too. I think you were just trying to say that just to be mean.
Me? Mean?
You just wanted to say the odds
Such a
were against me. I don't think
such a
the odds are
thing
against me. I don't.
could
Yeah, I
never
don't.
happen. But I do
But
think that, a lot of us, when we are acting on what we know and we're, you know, trying to mitigate all the risks that we can,
mhm.
sometimes we can be a little overconfident.
No,
And
no, I
I'm,
know, I
I'm
know, I know. I
like,
hear you.
I
No, I hear you on
constantly
that.
check myself,
That's
like,
true.
should I do this? Would this be a good idea to do right now? Because, you know, I know that if I did get infected, it would not
Hmm.
go well for me. It would be
Hmm.
a battle. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that's not something that I want to bring home to my family
Hmm.
because, my husband is vulnerable health wise.
Yes.
My father has chosen to not be vaccinated.
No, I get that. I'm not
So,
overconfident. Understand what you're saying. I'm not overconfident to the point that I'm negligent. Like I said, I just not seen my mom in Cincinnati. We're both vaccinated, but I took
mhm,
that rapid test. I'm not playing around, man. I'm not playing around with that.
yeah. And, even if I have to go to my parents, to
Mm-hmm.
do whatever, um, during the school year, I don't take my mask off because I figure I'm
Me
exposed to
either.
people that they're not exposed to,
Hmm.
and I don't want to bring that to my parents.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there was times, uh, Yeah, man. I went to a couple rallies, man, during the whole George Floyd thing,
Hmm.
and I was taking my clothes off when in the laundry room before I went throughout the rest of the home. You know what I mean? And I was sharing that with other people who were protesting, who were, going to rallies and stuff like that. And I found out a lot of them weren't doing it, but they were out there anyways in the height of the pandemic anyways. So I was like, that's something I really didn't get anyways. But I guess if the police don't kill you, COVID will. But anyways, um, anyway, anyways, we're to the point of C talk. This has been really enlightening. I really enjoy sitting down with people like yourself who are so intelligent. It's better than us banging our thumbs against a glass screen. You know what I'm saying? And we can actually articulate our thoughts, and you can understand what we're trying to say. This is the point in C talk where we come to the plan of action, and you get to go first.
Oh, now you want me to go first?
Based on our conversation, Janelle, what do you think is seriously the plan of action as we move forward to this pandemic, trying to get to an endemic, based on what we talked about?
Okay, well, based on what we talked about, one of the things that we definitely have to do is, find medical professionals who are transparent, who can relate to the concerns that we may have as a community that can be varied. I mean, for us, it was, you know, do I really want this vaccine? I don't know where it comes from. How long did it take to develop this? You know, what's in it? So being able to find medical professionals who can address those concerns and be clear, not just transparent, but easily understandable. That's crucial going forward. And if we're going to improve the health of the community at large, it's really essential. Looking for partnerships with not just healthcare centers, but colleges of medicine, especially those who may be attached to HBCUs, or within communities where there are people who are dealing with specific conditions or comorbidities that disproportionately affect us.
You said co what? I like that word.
Comorbidities.
I know. I just want you to say it.
You know
That's a
what?
good word.
I can't with you.
I like that word. I've been hearing that word a lot during the pandemic. But go ahead, keep going. What's your plan of action?
Okay. Um, Community gardens.
Okay. Now you back. Now you back on. We can vegetable our way out of this stuff. Yeah. A lot of those supplements, Janelle got those vegetables in there too. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good.
Well, I
And
know.
vice versa. Yeah.
But,
Go ahead.
you wouldn't believe the turmeric and ginger and cayenne that I have in my house.
Yeah. So you're not against,
No,
you know,
but
okay. Because you was
I
kind of
think
you was throwing some shade earlier in the broadcast.
I don't have a problem with doing both.
Okay. That's my
So,
perspective
it's
also.
the vaccine and
Okay.
not just.
All right. That's fair. Get your sea moss up too.
Mhm. Well,
Okay.
got to watch the iodine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And all fish, you know, mercury and all that good stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, my plan of action is you already know mine. I already been saying this. Get vaccinated if you want to retain certain rights and privileges, if your immune system has been compromised, if you have pre-existing illnesses that make you vulnerable, get that vaccine. But also, turmeric, vitamin D, zinc, neti pot. Like I said, do your research on neti pot because you could mess your stuff up if you
You
don't
know
do it
what?
right.
No, see, I had nose drops as a child. I was traumatized.
Oh, I know,
There,
I know, I know. It,
there's
it was scary for me too when I first did the neti pot too, but I like it now. I can
no,
definitely tell a difference.
there's no way anything with liquid is coming near my nose.
No, I hear you. No, I hear you. It's not for everybody. That's okay. There's more than one way to reduce your viral load. But when you got respiratory issues, I mean, respiratory viruses out there like COVID, it's great for that because this is the main entry point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then getting a sauna too. There's all kinds of stuff that they're not telling you in the mainstream that are beneficial about that sauna, especially when it comes to respiratory diseases and viruses. Sauna
Now,
is very good for you. And
is
it's
that the
not
hot
just the
sauna or
bro
the dry
science,
sauna?
either one.
Either one?
Increasing the temperature in your body. Oh, I'm telling you, man, it's a good thing because what your
Well,
body is doing is it's mimicking what happens when you get a fever. There's a reason why you get a fever
yeah,
when your
no.
body is under attack. I know I'm saying this for other people. Ain't they want everyone as smart as you, girl? My bad, not to mean to call you girl, sister. But that's why the sauna's good. It's not just the bro science of oh, you're sweating out your toxins. Yeah, it's that, but there's a lot of longevity therapy that is assigned and connected to the sauna. Even the fact that you have to sit there, they say it's good for mental and brain health.
Yeah,
So
the forced inactivity.
yeah. I
Let you
mean, but
sit
that
with your
goes
thoughts.
all the way back to indigenous people having the smoke rooms, to people in Russia having the steam rooms and the saunas that go up to 225 degrees, and then jumping into, you know, um, cold water. That's contrast therapy. There's all kinds of science behind that. So do
And then
that.
they do the
And then
vodka.
I've heard that too. I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
But also fresh air and sunlight. Those are vital ingredients too that you need to do. Exercise, even if it's
Mhm.
walking 30 minutes a day. Stay away from stressful people and experiences and get your rest. Even if you have to take naps, get your rest.
You know, um, teaching last year at home,
Hmm. So a lot
it
of
fe
naps.
no, I had the shortest commute ever because my
Okay,
commute was from my bedroom to where I'm sitting now,
I like that.
but
That's a good one.
I worked like a levee
Yeah,
camp mule, and
yeah.
so it wasn't a marathon, it was an Ironman.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so this
I'm
year,
glad to
what
be
I'm really
back.
yeah, this year what I'm really concentrating on is the off switch.
Got you. Yeah,
Like,
that's important
because,
because that impacts your
it does.
yeah, that impacts your immune system too.
And,
Just that grind. Yeah.
making sure I'm getting enough sleep,
Hmm.
um, saying, you know what, this can wait until tomorrow.
Yep.
Because for some kids, being online was really helpful. I have
Hmm.
kids, they were on the spectrum. They thrived online because they were able
Yeah, the
to
antisocial.
eliminate the distractions that come with
Hmm.
the classroom.
Sensory. Hmm.
And so, you know, I had kids, as soon as I disconnected from Zoom, my
Hmm.
inbox was dinging because they were sending in their work.
Hmm.
And so, when you hear people talk about the COVID slide and COVID slide is real, not for everyone. For
Yep.
some kids, they really needed to be in person,
Those introverts. Hmm.
but for
Yeah.
some kids, they did really well online. And
Yeah.
that story kind of gets lost
Yeah.
in the media. The kids who liked being online and who want to stay there.
Hmm.
But being an online teacher, there were times when I sat down at 8, I got up at 8 or 9
Hmm.
because, I've got meetings, I'm in PDs, you know, it was an iron day.
Hmm.
And so that last year, I was finishing up an endorsement. I did all 5 courses between September and June,
Hmm.
the end of June.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good
So
work.
now my educator certificate is 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was like, I'm not doing this again. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of forcing myself to slow down.
Yeah.
And, professionally, there's still things that I want to do, but I'm like, you know what? I have to pace myself now
Mm-hmm.
because I just can't go all out. And, some of us in some ways have accepted pandemic teaching as a new normal, and it's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's still abnormal. And that short term response to stress that we have been going on for the past year and a half
Mm-hmm.
is maladaptive.
Right. Well, that's a different episode because
No, you'll
no,
have to have me
seriously,
back
because
for
I
that.
will push back that we've been doing pandemic teaching with people getting these online, certificates and degrees and doctorates for years. But that's a whole different episode.
It's, you know,
Because I think this is the new
distance
norm,
learned.
though. I think this is a new norm, and that's one of the outcomes from the pandemic. I'm being serious. Is like,
Mhm.
that's going to create the economic divide between the rich and the poor. Is like people who have the privilege and the ability to do this stuff at home and avoid a commute, and it's really hurting the small business person, the independent business owner. We saw that
Mhm.
during the pandemic. And I'm not sure that the online experience is something good for the working middle class and the independent business owner. I'm not quite sure. The numbers are saying it wasn't. Seattle is trying its hardest to um, cut corners to get more people downtown because people vacated and exited, what I'm saying, businesses, in a dramatic rate. And they're trying to get people down there and fill up these venues and these marketplaces in downtown Seattle. Homelessness is taking over. The numbers don't lie. So,
Well, see, in Miami, we have Condo Canyon, like all along the bay,
mm-hmm,
starting in downtown. You've got these high rises, and foreign money is built
mm-hmm,
buying those. People from the Middle East, people from Central and
mm-hmm.
South America who,
Snatching it up.
yes, in the past 3 weeks, I've had 3 new students.
Mm-hmm.
They're all from Venezuela.
Okay.
I'm like, I didn't know that people with money were left in Venezuela
Oh yeah.
because I
Oh
thought
yeah.
they had already
Probably have lighter
immigrated.
skin.
Yeah, but like certain sections of town, which are
Yeah.
newer and have, newer, bigger houses,
Mm-hmm.
they'll come in and buy it all cash.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a huge color caste system and economic caste system in Miami. I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah. And then, all of the different national groups,
Mm-hmm.
they all speak Spanish, but there's a definite pecking order.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, definitely. All
And
those people
so,
that come in from Hispanola or the Caribbean. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Haitians are getting it the worst right now.
Well, you know what? It started when they had to pay reparations to France. It wasn't,
Absolutely.
it was
Oh
not,
yeah, this is a whole different episode. Yep.
yeah, it wasn't
I
helped
can go
by,
on and on and on about what I learned when I went down there. Yep.
yeah, it was not helped by all of those Marine Corps commanders from the deep South who were sent to Haiti.
Yeah. NASA's still down there mining iridium. I can go on. Well, we still owe Haiti for, New Orleans and Louisiana. So
The whole
we should
Louisiana Purchase.
exactly.
That
We
was
should be
like
like, thank you.
garage sale pricing.
Exactly. Hey, Janelle, it's been great. 1 hour, 44 minutes. You stayed up in Miami for us. And ironically, you talking about getting your rest to support your immune system. You staying up for Sea Talk. I appreciate you. and
Well, it's been
I'm
fun,
looking forward.
Logic, and we can do this again.
Let's
Just
do it
let me.
again. Let's do it again. We can do something other than science and COVID too. But
Okay.
yeah. All right, I'll talk to you backstage. Hold on. All right, peace.
Okay.
Hold on. See talk. Oh man, trying to end this thing, bro. Put this in the blooper reel.